Hello and welcome. This is Marty Sandell, Floriani Educator. We are going to begin the software portion of the Project of the Month number 33, Falling Leaves and Twirling Pumpkins. Once you've opened your program when you're connected to the internet, the My Floriani Today screen will open. And it is on this screen where you can find all the latest that Floriani has added to the program or new products that we have as well. But what we want to concentrate on today is we're going to be creating a new design. So we're just going to click on this little icon right there. And as we click on that, our design screen is going to open up. The very first thing that we want to look at, of course, is our workspace. I have the workspace set here for inches, but it can very easily be converted to metric by right-clicking on that and checking metric. And you can see I now have metric measurements. I happen to be metrically challenged, so I'm going to go back to inches. I also have the option of changing my grid size on the screen. For this particular project, we are going to be using a half-inch grid. However, we can change that if we want to. And all we have to do is type in this little box up here. Like if I wanted a 1-inch grid, I would just do that, click OK, and I now have a 1-inch grid on my screen. Let's go back and take it back to the half-inch. Our project today will require a minimum of an 8-inch hoop. We can select our 8-inch hoop, which will be 200 by 200 millimeters. And as you scroll through, you will find hoops appropriate for your machine. It does need to be at least a 200 by 200 millimeter hoop. So I am going to click OK, and this will bring in my 8-inch hoop. To start our program today, we will access the Applique Shapes. Simply click on the Applique Shapes icon, and we're going to scroll down and look for Halloween 03. And that will be about in the middle of the page here. Here's Halloween 03, click OK. We have our pumpkin on the screen, and the first thing that we want to do is size the pumpkin for the project we're doing. So by right-clicking, I am going to click Transform, and my Properties box will come up. Our first step will be to change the size of our pumpkin for this project. We'll do that by right-clicking on the highlighted pumpkin and clicking Transform. You'll notice that your Properties box will appear. And it's inside this Properties box. If you take a look at that, you will find a number of things. We can change the width and the height, but we also want to maintain the aspect ratio. So be sure that the Maintain Aspect Ratio box is checked. In the width, we're going to change that to 3.5 inches. So I'll just type in 3.5 and click Apply. Our pumpkin is now the size that we want it. I really don't want a blue pumpkin, so if I right-click on my color bar down here at the bottom on color number 4, orange, I will now have an orange pumpkin. We'll just click on this to highlight it again so that you see. Our Properties Applique box will appear, and here we have the option to change the type. I would like to use a blanket stitch or an E-stitch, so I will just select E-stitch here in the box. There are a couple other changes I would like to make in the box. The first will be the width of the applique. I prefer to use a little narrower applique, so I'm just going to type 3 in that box. And the inset percentage, I'd like to change to 90%. Whenever you're working with an E-stitch, it's important to have that tack down line a little closer to the outside of the fabric. And then I will click Apply. My pumpkin is now ready to be used. The first thing we'll do is, I'd like you to click on the Rotate Right button. Once you've rotated it to the right, we want to grab the little X in the middle and bring our pumpkin up to the upper right-hand corner. While our pumpkin is highlighted, we want to break up the applique path. So you can see the applique here when I right-click and say Break Up Path. You'll notice once we break up the path, we now have our placement line, our tack down line, and the applique. Let's rename the run line. By clicking on the first run line and then clicking a second time, I have the option to change the name of this run line to Placement. So I'd like you to type Placement in the first run line. In the second run line, let's type Tack Down. Now that we've renamed the two run lines related to this applique, last thing we want to do with this pumpkin before we continue, and that is to change the color of the placement line. So let's left mouse click on that placement, and we're going to right click on the blue down here at the bottom. So we have changed that line to blue, and if you notice, that line has moved up in the sequence window here on the right. So it has moved up. Next step, let's left mouse click on the tack down. And when we do that, come back down to the color bar and right click and turn that one red. So you can see that all three colors appear here now in the sequence view. Let's select all. We already have this selected, so let's just draw a box around the entire pumpkin so that everything is selected, and come up here and group it. That way all sections of the pumpkin are together. And you'll notice when I click Sequence View, they are actually all selected. While the pumpkin is selected, let's copy and paste this pumpkin. Click here on the copy icon and click on the icon right next to it so that we paste it. We now have two pumpkins. That top pumpkin we're going to rotate to the right. So we're going to click once and click twice, left mouse clicking. Once we have clicked that, we want to come in and have our hand grab a hold of that pumpkin and bring it down into the lower right hand corner. Once it is down in the lower right hand corner, we can come up under Edit and select all so that we have a box around both pumpkins. These need to be aligned, and we have a little alignment icon right here which will align these two pumpkins in a center alignment. So when we click this, you'll see these pumpkins adjust just a little bit. Next, we want to copy and paste these two pumpkins so we can put two pumpkins on the other side. Let's use the copy and paste icon again, and let's left mouse click and paste it. We now have 4 pumpkins in our window. Let's flip that top pumpkin vertically and grab a hold of the X there in the center and move that pumpkin over up into the left-hand side. If you take a look at the screen right now, you're going to notice there's a jump line that kind of runs across that screen. And our pumpkins, if you look closely at the stem on the pumpkins, they are not actually going in the same direction. But if we flip these vertically, our pumpkins will now be rotating in the same direction, and that jump line has disappeared. Let's go under Edit and select all, so that all 4 pumpkins are selected. The one thing we want to be sure that they are in alignment. So let's just click the vertical center align button right here. And our pumpkins look like they're fairly even. While the pumpkins are highlighted, I want you to click the Edit button. And we're going to come down and we're going to click Resequence by Color. And if you notice, I want you to take close notice of the sequence view over here on the right-hand lower part of the screen. So we're going to do Edit, Resequence by Color. And you will notice that it has joined all those sections of the pumpkin. However, we have a number of jump lines if you look on your screen. So what we want to do is go to Select All again, Edit, Select All, and Edit, Optimize Entry and Exit. And watch these jump lines on the outer edge of your pumpkin smooth. We now have brought those jump lines into the center of those pumpkins. Let's take a look at how this is going to stitch, just so that you have an idea. Let's select the Slow Redraw button, and I'm going to move this up fast so that it will move quickly for us. But you'll notice when I click Simulate, it's going to stitch all of those placement lines first, then the tack down, and finish up with the buttonhole stitch on the outer edge. So this will make it very quick to applique. You'll just click the Select button and go back to our screen. I would like to go ahead now and draw a box around these so that we can select all of them. And let's group these pumpkins together. Our leaves are going to be found in the Applique Shapes as well. And we're looking for leaf 01. So I want you to scroll down and find leaf 01. And I see it right here. So click on it and click OK. Leaf 01 is coming up into the center of the hoop. And first of all, we want that leaf to be green, so let's come back and right click on it, so on the green color on the color bar down here at the bottom, so that we have a green leaf. Next, we want to rotate this leaf to the left, so let's rotate it to the left. And as we did before, we'll want to break this leaf apart, so we want to right click and break up the path. And you will notice here that we now have a broken up path for our leaf. Let's rename these 2 run lines like we did before. We're just going to left mouse click on the first one and left mouse click a second time and type in placement. Let's do the same with the second run line and type in tack down. And just click off it. Now that we've renamed the run lines on the leaf, we want to change the colors once again. So left mouse click on the placement line, and we're going to select the light green. So right mouse click on the light green. And we have changed that color. You can see that it's jumped up above. Left mouse click on the tack down, and we're going to change that to this rust color, number 7, on your color bar. Now that we've changed the the colors of the various sections of our leaf. Let's come over here to color 6 in the sequence window and left mouse click. I want you to move your mouse down to the applique, hold down your shift key, and left mouse click. We have now selected the entire leaf. Let's group this together. We want to rotate this in a circle, so let's select the circle template tool. And when we do, you see that we have a preview window that comes up. We want our circle to be 100 millimeters wide, not 200. So we're going to type 100 into that box at the top. You notice that keep aspect ratio is selected, so both windows are going to change. For the number of repeats, we can click this little down arrow until 4 appears in the setting repeats box. The angle we will leave the same. For the scale, our leaves need to be a bit smaller, so we're going to change the size right here to 50, so the leaves will be half the size that they were before. And in the angle box, we're going to type 270. When we click apply, that means that this is a preview. So we now have it in the preview window. Once you like what you see in the preview window, which we do, let's left mouse click OK. We now have all 4 leaves within our group. Let's go edit, select all, and when we select all, we can come up here and click center align, which is going to align those leaves vertically and horizontally. Once again, with the leaves, let's left mouse click on the leaves, and we want to come up to highlight them, and let's come up to edit, resequence by color. And you can see once again it shows that we have 6 colors that we have used in our sequence view. You do realize, of course, we really only have 2 because we will not be changing the colors for the placement and tack down line. Once again, you see how the leaves have large jumps around the outer edge. So let's select the leaves just by left mouse clicking on them and come up and do optimize entry and exit. And you will see once again that the most optimal point for entering and exiting is at the on the stem end of the leaves. Let's do edit, select all, and come back up here and group everything together. And just left mouse click on your desktop. We're going to add some rotating wheat into the center of our leaves. And we'll use the text designs for this. We're going to be looking for the wheat design, which is MT10773. So remember, these are in alphabetical order, so if we scroll down here or grab a hold and pull down until we get to the M section. Everybody in the M section. Just be real careful when you get to that so you don't bypass it. It's going to be right next to the apple, between the apple and the seahorse. We will left mouse click and click OK. Our wheat is now in the very center, but it's quite small, and we're going to transform it. This time, instead of using the height and width boxes, we're going to use the percentage boxes to increase the size. Be sure that the maintain object ratio is checked when we do this. So in the 100% box, we want to put 200. So we are increasing this wheat by 200%. Once we have done this, let's bring the wheat up so it's kind of in the center here, towards the top. And let's left click the rotation button. We're just rotating this wheat around. I want you to rotate the wheat around so the position of the wheat looks pretty much like this. Now that you've rotated it, let's move it over so that it sits right between those leaves. And I actually am going to rotate it just a little tiny bit more. You want to rotate that wheat so that the stems line up pretty much like this in the square. Please notice that I've drawn a little box around the 4 squares. I have zoomed into the center of my hoop here so you can get a better idea of how much you need to rotate that wheat to the left. And as you can see, it's lined up within that little square in the upper left of the center. So try to get your leaves in that position. And I'll give you a minute once you get them in that position. Then I'll zoom back here while you're doing that so that I fit the screen. Now that we have the leaf in position, if you have not changed the color of your wheat to color number 5, right-click on color number 5 in the color bar at the bottom of this. We now need to copy and paste this so that we end up with 4 sets of wheat rotating between the leaves. So let's come up here and copy and then paste. And we will rotate this to the right once and twice. We're going to need to rotate this wheat just a little bit. So you want to grab the rotation at the top and rotate it just slightly and move it on down so that the upper stem connects with the upper stem on the other wheat. And that looks pretty much like the way you would like it to be. And let me zoom in here a minute. So as you can see that the upper stem is actually, so we want those to be connected like that. Once that wheat is highlighted, let's left mouse click and be sure that you don't have your zoom button on, that you want to have your selection tool on. We're going to hold down the control key and left mouse click so that those two are combined. Our next step will be to group them. So come up and select your group icon. Let's now copy and paste this. And then we're going to click the left rotate button this time. It's 2 times, 3 times, and 4 times. And grab a hold of that wheat and bring it down so that the stems match up. Once you have the stems of your wheat in the position that you like, let's go ahead and hold down the control key and that they are together now. We will need to group these. So if you need to rotate these at all, you can come and rotate them as a group. And I'm going to rotate it just a little bit to the right. So you can adjust it however you like. So that we have highlighted everything in that window. When we do that, we then will come up and do the center align so that everything lines up together. And you can see that the wheat has moved over just a little bit. Our next step is to create a template. And let's go File, Print Preview. And in the Print Preview box, our design is going to come up. For printing our template, this will work. We'll be using this as a placement in the hoop before we embroider. Have actual size check, crosshairs, and one page, and we'll click OK. You can see that our design now appears full size. When you print this, you will be printing it on template tearaway. Be sure that your printing appears on the stabilizer side of the sheet. And then of course you would click print. It's time now to save our design. So we're going to do File, Save As. And the first thing we want to do is find a place to save it. I am just going to save it to my desktop right now. And I want to name the design first. So I'm going to name the design Leaf and Pumpkin. So I'm typing in L-E-F, capital N, P-U-M-P. And I'm saving it first as a C2S file. This is like your roadmap, so whenever you create a design, you want to save it as a C2S file. This way you can go back later and do editing very easily. So we're going to save that as a C2S file. You then want to come back and save your design in the format suitable for your machine. And you have many options in the window. You have now completed the software portion of this lesson and are ready to proceed with embroidery. We have provided your dealer with a printout of this lesson so you can go home and create additional blocks. This is a great block. You do not need to make a placemat. Think of the number of things that you can do with this design. You may wish to create 3 of them and create a table runner rather than a placemat. Or perhaps you would like a fall quilt. I do want to thank you for joining us today. I look forward to seeing you in future projects of the month.